try and find LY4 in that back line and see if they can make something happen. We'll have to see EVOS versus RSG. I'm going to lean towards RSG a little bit, but still could go either way. The score is equalized. It's effectively down to a BO5. EVOS on the left, RSG on the right. Abstract, Eris, over to you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as we take a look at match number 3 between EVOS as well as RSG, with EVOS with a pretty interesting pick, right? They have a Karina onto their end, but yet they do not have a marksman on their end when it comes to the gold lane. So EVOS, you know, maybe they have something more interesting for us.
Yeah, they have a lot of AoE damage. That's something you have to respect coming out from EVOS' draft, right? You have the Belmont, the leader counter. Ruby can actually set up a lot of this fight with the I'm Offended, and that allows Gear and Sayla to just burst any heroes at the front. If anyone on the side of RSG is low, Potato, they can just go in and clean up with the rest of the fight. So the idea here is that they want to pick LY4 off because the Nathan is looking so delicious for EVOS. However, RSG, they do have a box here, and they also have an Asmar that they act as a front line. So it's all about making sure that LY4 stays alive. EVOS, on the other hand, Potato is going to be constantly hunting for that Nathan.
EVOS, they are pretty aggressive down in the gold lane after all. They would want to pump up as much as they can onto Gear and even get him the level 4. But for now, Potato and the rest of the members from EVOS moving on to Longsi. Unfortunately, they are not able to bring every HP down from the side of Longsi. But Sayla actually, his HP was pretty down low, dropped to his liver, but he's still pretty much A-OK, and thus the first blood is still unshed.
Yeah, you can see the respect coming out from RSG. They actually almost wanted to go for the Belmont there, but just the mere presence from Potato actually chased them away. So I think the Karina tank definitely is a very good pick. It kind of eliminates a lot of the weak spot that Ito can go in for, but JPL, very aggressive. Look at that, he's hunting for any fighters onto the back line.
With Baby Cakes, he's currently right in the face of Potato together against Adamir, but I don't think that Baby Cakes will be able to do much as he flickers himself away. Gear gets right onto his tail, but unfortunately misses a lot of the skill shots while JPL takes the first blood off of the head of Longsi, and they are still going to be working that through. Jason takes flight. He is going to be on Black Dragon form, but only for a brief period as he brings himself back into middle lane.
Oh my, 505 with those flame shots, finding JPL all the way from downtown. And that was, I would say, a fairly even trade. Obviously, RSG could be slightly happier for that because they did manage to pick off JPL, which is kind of like the space maker. Same goes for EVOS onto the Bucks here. Meanwhile, we do see a little bit of a tango between Gear and 504 in mid lane, but I'm pretty sure the Paquito will have to go to Bob's side. I think lane chemistry-wise, EVOS does have the slight advantage because Paquito will be able to bully Yuto in the early game. We talked about that before. It's all about making sure that the Yuto cannot rotate. If Jason cannot take part in the fights because he's constantly being pressured by the Paquito, then EVOS does have the advantage in terms of number because the Paquito can rotate first. He can then look to threaten either the Kagura or Nathan if they are in bad spots.
Potato and JPL working down on the turtle. RSG definitely knows some information, but Longsi goes with the Baxia Unity, flies himself all the way onto Adamir, but it's going to help buy some time, I suppose, as Adamir and his fellow friends did manage to bring down the total for themselves, effectively raising their gold per minute as well as their total economy to be the exact same as RSG.
Yeah, RSG got Lodi trying to open up the map, the rolling Unity. He does have a lot more mobility than JPL, but at the end of the day, you know, even if you open up the map, you can't risk taking too much damage because the poke coming out from Sayla can't be ignored. He is still a very bursty mage, even though Baxia in nature is tanky by himself.
I would say that both side lanes, they are playing relatively safe by its, within itself. They are pretty much neck and neck. And middle lane is where all of the action is happening. Longsi would want to get a jump on someone. 505 would want to whittle someone's HP all the way down low by using her Seimei Umbrella. But other than that, I wouldn't be expecting much, would you?
No, absolutely not. I think 505, he needs a lot of setup for his Kagura to actually work. Okay. And in the meantime, we do see very interesting lane rotations coming from both teams. They don't look as aggressively as compared to the previous two games, where we saw very high volume of kills, high volume of ganks in the side lane. But now with both side lanes filled with fighters, 4 fighters to be exact. It's very hard for either team to actually find a pickoff. And talking about pickoff, oh my goodness!
Oh.
505 blown up in the face.
JPL, I'm offended, connects right onto Jason, pulls him away from the main bulk of EVOS's body, ensuring that he is unable to be that pesky nuisance that he was hoping to be as a Yuzhong. And they are all just going to disengage from one another as Adamir proxies up in the bottom lane, just going to go face to face and tank it up against Baby Cakes, while the top lane, Gear is trying to work his way onto Yuzhong up to the top lane and hoping that he'll be able to win the lane as well.
Now this is going to be perfect for EVOS because Lilia's really pressuring in the mid. If the Karina can find a weakened Jason, that could be dire for RSG. Because of that, RSG knows they're going to back off. They don't want to pressure mid lane too much. Wolsey here, however, already a quarter of a HP down, so he has to be very aware that EVOS can look to bully him out of position like how they did in the previous turtle fight.
It doesn't seem like we have seen a lot of potatoes in fight in this case. It is really all about objectives that EVOS is doing, kind of go for the safe route to a certain extent. But right as I'm talking about Potato not going into action, he did move all the way up to the top lane, forcing Baby Cakes back behind the turret by using his ultimate as well.
Yeah, Adam in here playing very aggressively. We do see a little bit of a swap in lanes. Paquito now going on the top side. That kind of signals that EVOS are looking for a gank. They want the burst coming up from Paquito.
Well, Edemir's HP is down low. Top lane, Baby Cakes is doing whatever they can to kind of clear out all the lanes, but unfortunately, that's a little bit too much for him to handle. They're going for a 1-for-1 trade all the way at the extreme ends of the map, and it's amazing how neck and neck they are. They're doing exactly the same thing and accomplishing the exact same thing as well.
Yeah, however, because RSG does have a Nathan, he will push towers slightly faster. They even managed to capitalize on stealing with the red buff. I think EVOS will try to do the same, but there's just not enough clearing potential from the Karina, so they will have to just back off right here. Lozy, playing with fire. He does have the support of RSG members, but like I said, he can't afford to take too much damage. His idea here is to kind of just zone away members of EVOS from the Nathan, and without Nathan being front up just yet, RSG should not look for a fight. They need the late game to come in. LY4, he needs about 1 or 2 more items, give or take, including the Genius one, to really be potent.
With the Dominance Eyes being built up onto Gear, we can pretty much focus on Gear as he is and will be the one to tackle up onto Baby Cakes, Jason, or LY4. So he will always be the one that will be jumping down to the back lines or even saving his own back lines away from Jason. It really depends on how they would want to play the game and how they execute it in the end, because Gear can pretty much swap together with JPL, either someone in the front or someone on the back, because they really need to ensure that someone is doing the bulk of the damage, which clearly Gear might not be the one.
Yeah, well, Gear just shutting you in your face, but it is a Paquito, so he has a ton of damage in his kit. And I think obviously Jason kind of overestimating his survivability as well. LY4 comes in, Lozy making sure that his carry stays safe. This is going to be a scenario that we see time and time again. Lozy's main job to keep LY4 alive. Meanwhile, Adamir is he's doing a fantastic job at the bottom lane because there is no heroes on the side of RSG can exactly blow him up except for the Kagura, who's constantly getting zoned out in the middle because of the fantastic rotation coming from Sayla and JPL to keep that Kagura in the mid.
To be honest, I'm rather surprised with EVOS' lineup that they are not as aggressive as I was expecting to be. Because with a Karina jungle building up onto the tank item, you can pretty much expect that Karina will always be the one that's pretty bold and would want to get himself into the opponent's face in order to force them into a fight, while the rest of his fellow crew members just brings down the world of pain on the RSG. But it doesn't seem like we are looking at that.
Yeah, it could also be that EVO's playstyle is to be a little bit more passively. That's how they used to play in the past. I think we are seeing remnants of that. You know, they like to play slow, slowly farm up, try to snowball with the net worth. And we have seen that coming into this game. Yes, they haven't been playing the most aggressively, but because of certain few skirmishes which they've been able to capitalize on the burst damage from Karina, they are just trying to snowball, and they are already starting to make work on tier 2 at the bottom lane, while RSG only managed to secure the first tier at top.
And right as you're talking about RSG taking a turret, they are going to be working onto the turret up to the top lane, while Gear does
JPL
very fast to hold his line as JPL cuts in between, trying to go for Armor Fender plus a flicker, but unfortunately wasn't able to successfully chain it all together. He only managed to flicker right after the end of the animation, and that is really unfortunate because it's not able to pull them all under the turret's nose. Well, Potato and Sayla, it kind of seems like they are in position to come in and cut the escape and the retreat mechanism of RSG, but it doesn't seem like they would want to put out too much effort for it.
EVOS just getting so much more value out of the rotations, right? We talked about it. They managed to get the tier 2 at the bottom lane. RSG struggling to even break it. They nearly got it there, but good play coming out from Gear to actually push the waves out of the turret's range and getting JPL to also assist. That could have been really bad for RSG if JPL actually managed to pull off the flicker into the unfended combo, because then you got LY4 that is underneath the tier 2 of EVOS side, and that, you know, if Nathan actually goes down, who is essentially the core carry, core hyper carry for RSG, then EVOS can look to, you know, take more objectives out of there by going either into the mid or even settling for the Lord.
Since we're talking about core DPS to a certain extent, EVOS doesn't seem to have the marksman, which we have talked about it before. Gear is the one that deals a lot of damage in the early game, but how is he going to how is he going to fare in the late stages? Who is going to be the one that deals the bulk of damage from EVOS?
Well, precisely like we saw in the bot lane. Yes, they don't have the marksman, but it's all about bursting down the squishy heroes of RSG. Yes, Esmeralda is not the squishiest hero, but she is by herself, and you know, we can definitely tell that Karina does have enough burst at this point. So it's all about farming and making sure that RSG don't get LY4 into the action. And it's all about ganking the side lanes. That's what Karina is here for. She's here to burst someone down, and hopefully as she transits into the tank, they are here to count on the burst damage from the Balmond, which we've really not talked about the entire game. The lethal counter is something that can really put RSG in a very bad spot if 2 or 3 members of the RSG are low on HP.
As Adamir finds himself in the face of Longsy, trying to go for the Cyclone sweep, but unfortunately lethal counter did not connect onto Longsy, while Jason gets himself away, but JPL goes around for the spin. Did manage to hook up onto Longsy though, but it doesn't matter as Potato moves up onto Longsy. Longsy goes down, Adamir is just going to be sweeping all the way, while Gear, he's in between of 3. Gear trying to get himself away, successfully doing so, while he's just going to be intercepting together with JPL, and he's just going to be forcing
Potato!
So that Jason does not bring through the front line. The rest of the members coming from the side of EVOS just going to be moving right through as Adamir with the Cyclone sweep brings down LI4 as they have lost out the front lines and the back lines. Right as Aris talked about, that is the power of Adamir, that is the power of Bowman. Who cares anything about marksmen? That is what we want from EVOS.
They juggled that damage output coming from LY4 perfectly, making sure that they swap the front lines of EVOS in and out, and they could only do so because they also have the Balmond, and the Karina is also playing as a tank. So essentially, you're looking at 3 heroes that can take turns, or rather even 4 if you count Gear in, because he did a fantastic job at also zoning away members of RSG. So if they essentially do it successfully, RSG is going to have a very difficult time at finishing fights because LY4 needs time to stretch those tanks in. And if EVOS constantly switches those front lines, LY4 doesn't really have a consistent target that he can look to pick off. And you know, they're gonna need 5-on-5 in this fight. Kagura needs to help the Nathan to come online and be effective.
The Lord hammers away onto the inhibitor turrets up to the top. It's definitely gonna go straight down. They are juggling themselves between the top and the middle lane though, as you can see, while the Ballistas shoots himself away onto the second tier defense turret. LY4 hops out of Audi, waiting and preparing for the assault that EVOS brings in. But unfortunately, nothing else comes out of the ordinary. 505 does not have his yin yang overturn. Longsy does not have the tortoise's persons as well. While EVOS, all of their ultimate is still available. A success story from EVOS is very much possible here.
Yeah, well, with Nathan using his ultimate, I'm not too sure if it comes up on cooldown. I do see that he does have it. JPL looking for the setup. He won't be able to get it, but look at the damage output for the Sailor. Bring LF4. They even jump in. The lethal counter comes in. The Buckshot goes down. They join the front line here, having a little bit of fun with those recalls. Jason dropping very low. He's trying to front line for RSG. He gets bursted to pieces. Potato now getting his ultimate reset. They even jump right in. MPK might be the next one to fall. EVOS at full blow. stomping down the pace of RSG as they try desperately to defend this. It's going to be a 3v5. Yes, EVOS is low, but they have the numbers and they are a disciplined bunch. Look at that, they're managing the waves as they look to take the tier 3 of RSG's bottom lane.
It kind of seems like they were low, but now they are all pretty healthy, if you ask me. JPL takes himself right onto the front lines in the middle lane, ensuring the successful retreat of his fellow crewmate in EVOS, and is just doing so well, right under 15 minutes. And EVOS, boy oh boy, with 2 inhibitor turret down, they are a lot closer to victory.
Yeah, you talked about the regeneration effect coming up from EVOS's heroes, and ideally, Lozzy is the only hero at this point that has a true counter to that regen effect. The moment he goes down to Valmont's lethal counter, there's really no one that can stop this regen, right? Because they're like, oh look, the only hero that can stop our regen effect and essentially front line for RSG is down. Let's just go ham. They take down Jason, they take the tier 2, or rather they take the tier 3 down the mid lane. Some could argue they could have played a bit more greedily, but this is where discipline comes in. And speaking about discipline, can JPL get out of this alive? I guess he can, because Nathan, he's got a lot of work to do. He needs to clear the waves, he needs to provide damage. LY4's responsibility in this game has been such a heavy one, and I think RSG, they have been doing a good job of trying to get LY4 to come up online, but EVOS is not giving them a good game at all.
JPL finds himself in front of the enemy's line.
They get the hook!
Goes straight in for the I'm offended. He did manage to hook a lot of people right into his face though, but his HP is down low and he wouldn't want to re-engage again anymore unless he did manage to bring his HP back onto a healthy state. As Potato moves on onto Jason.
Yeah.
Adamir takes one, Baby Cakes, low HP, runs away, but it's okay. Hit 505, LY4, moving
get
right
the
back.
hook!
JPL hooking right in, and the rest of the EVOS moving right in. They do have the entire mobility right down to the core. Bottom lane is pushing in right now. All of 5 members of EVOS, they are all available, and Potato is trying to do
LY4!
Onto an LY4 did not pop the immortality, but it doesn't really quite matter because all of the waves are moving right in unison and bringing down the core.
EVOS-SG. They make the draft look so simple to LY4 to use his ultimate to jump onto the backline. And because he's situated so far away on the back, RSG did not have enough damage to break down any members of EVOS' side. We talked about the Belmont, we talked about the fact that they have Gear who's also coming in from the side, but more importantly, Potato in that very last fight was soaking so much damage. The Uto was just tickling her.
There's really a lot of things that's just not working for RSG. They have only gotten themselves with a total of 2 kills for this game. Can you imagine that? How little it is. And RSG, they're suffering all across the board, and it is just it's just wild to see. While the damage chart is going to tell us a lot, Lilia is still going to be the one that brings out the bulk of the damage because of the sheer amount of frontliners from the side of RSG. They are just going to be eating up most of that shot. But we still gonna have to give it over to both the Bauman, all 3 of them, Bauman, Karina, as well as Paquito. It is a very wide spread of damage.
Yeah, like I said, the Uto is kind of like a fool's gold. It looks so shiny, but he's not necessarily the playmaker of the team. The marksman jungle strat now getting torn apart. EVOS down 2 games in a row playing without a marksman, but they don't care because all they need to do is just make sure LY4 gets picked off. And this is why, you know, being a marksman in the jungle is such a tough position to play because there's so many heroes on the side of EVOS that can target you in a blink of an eye. You have to worry about the Paquito, you have to worry about the Ruby getting the hook down on you, you have to worry about Karina, and last but not least, there's also Belmont, which